Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I am coming home.
Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. Thank you for being here this morning, for joining us. If you remembered to change your clocks, welcome, on time and maybe 1 hour short of sleep. And if you didn't, thank you for joining us just as you are whenever that is. With daylight savings comes the welcoming of spring. The spring equinox is next weekend. And as we stand here, the building is creaking and groaning above us as the sun warms the beams and the bricks. A wonderful reminder that the year turns on, despite everything. That new possibilities await us on this journey together. We are in the midst of the season of Lent, a recognition of the wilderness of the long and hard journey. We also recognize that it's been 1 year since the pandemic of COVID-19 changed our lives forever. But we are on this journey together with you, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you identify, whatever the color of your skin or your theology, and wherever you are on your own life journey, you are welcome here. You are a welcome partner on our journey together, and I thank you for joining us this morning. It is my honor to participate in worship this morning with my colleague, the Reverend Matthew Cockrum, who brings us a good, hard, and holy word this morning. And I want to thank our musicians, Anne and Linda, for providing the beautiful music that holds our space together today.
Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worshiper, lover of leavings. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, come again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worshiper, lover of leavings. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Friends, whether you can believe it or not, it has been an entire year this weekend since we began our virtual worship together. I remember a year ago, this weekend, standing in this beautiful cathedral of love and looking out at virtually an empty sanctuary as Fred and Andy and I stood up here almost as lost and without direction as you probably were at home as we tried to figure it all out. It really was March 15th, which would be tomorrow, but the calendar works in such a way that we go by weekends. We're not going to go by exacts. 1 year. Think about how much happens in a year. Think about how much has happened in this church in 1 year, or in this nation, or this community, or in your own home in 1 year. Think about what we've learned about ourselves. Think about what we've learned about our community. Think about what we've learned about the world and its ways of injustice, its ways of exposing that in our own midst that is so terribly wrong that maybe we weren't as aware of without this time in COVID. We know we're not through the woods yet. We know we're not out of the wilderness yet. But I think we have learned so much about ourselves and so much about our own community in this past year. And so as we light our candles this morning, I want to invite all of us to also hold that space and hold that tension of everything that we've experienced in this last year. And as I light them, I'm going to skip past the liturgy where we say we light the candle for love and compassion and pray for this and peace and justice, because we know those prayers. Those prayers live within our hearts every week. And so instead, I want to invite you this week into a moment of silence as we pray for and meditate on and reflect on this past year together. May the lives that have been lost in this last year rest in power. And may the things that we have learned about ourselves and our world not be in vain, but for good. And may all of this be so. Amen.
Lady of the season's laughter, in the summer's warmth be near. When the winter follows after, teach our spirits not to fear. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning year. Sister of the evening starlight, in the falling shadows stay, here among us till the far light of tomorrow's dawning ray. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning day. Mother of the generations, in whose love all life is worth, everlasting celebrations bring our labor safe to birth. Fold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning earth. Goddess of all time's progression, stand with us when we engage hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
This morning, for a few moments, I invite you to find your most attentive seat, to claim for yourself the space for meditation, for prayer, for reflection. And as Anne provides music to accompany you, let these words from Martha Postlethwaite, chaplain and minister, be an invitation to you. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently. Until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to the world so worthy of rescue. This is what flourishing looks like. This is what flourishing looks like? Yes. This is what flourishing looks like. In the wilderness. It's not all beauty and bliss. It is not freedom from temptation or struggle or challenge. It is freedom to discern and to choose the next moves. It is freedom to see our place in the midst of things, powers and structures, privileges and systems, patterns we unknowingly and sometimes knowingly defend and recreate and reinforce. To come to know these and to be known by them, and then to choose, what will we do? How will we live? This is what flourishing in the wilderness looks like. And so it has always been, and perhaps so it will always be. We find ourselves on the edge of greatness, and it is not a choiceless fall or even a fearless leap. It is not a foregone conclusion of how it will all turn out. It is not happily ever after. It is challenge, it is choice, it is courage. And it is finding companions in the wilderness. Recent weeks and months have shown us again and again that we constantly find ourselves faced with this invitation, this proclamation, this provocation. You are beloved, and how will you conduct yourself? How will you be in the wilderness? What will you do with this one wild and precious life? At a global level, as the pandemic and our responses to it continue to unfold, as revolutions and suppressions of freedom continue to emerge, at a national level, where centuries-long patterns of power and privilege continue to be revealed and challenged and defended. At a local level, even here within this community, striving to be beloved, as we grapple with a reflection of ourselves, our patterns, our power, our choices. How will we respond? How will we choose to flourish in the wilderness? My friends, we are halfway into the Christian season of Lent, the 40 days of reflection leading to the commemoration of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. This season that is a mirror of sorts of the Jewish commemorations of wandering in the desert after escaping bondage in Egypt, of waiting at the base of Mount Sinai as Moses communed with God, which you may recall wound up including a time when folks who were not really ready for the unknown instead constructed a golden calf and worshiped something more familiar, more comfortable. An echo, too, of Gautama Buddha's 49 days meditating under the Bodhi tree, seeking enlightenment. All of these, I would assert, are initiation periods, times of trial, stories of individuals and communities coming of age, coming into their own, seeing the world for what it is, for what it has been, for what it could be, and being faced with the heavy reality and the choice of how to respond. With power, with compassion, with courage, with clarity. Choosing how to give themselves to this world so worthy of rescue. Knowing full well they are only one person, one community, one people, but knowing too that how they choose matters. How they choose to flourish in the wilderness. It was years ago, working with the coming-of-age youth here in this church, that I first came to see the story of Jesus in the wilderness as a coming-of-age story. Perhaps you're familiar with it, either in detail or by reputation, a story of Jesus being tempted to use his power for selfish purposes and gains or for flashy show. In some gospel accounts, we receive detailed exposition, but the account that most catches my eye and the eyes of my heart comes from the Gospel of Mark, and this account is simple and stark. After Jesus is baptized by John, and after he has a vision of the Spirit descending like a dove upon him and hears a voice telling him he is beloved, after these experiences of ecstasy, that same Spirit drives him into the wilderness. Wait, what? Yes. From the mountaintop to the valley, immediately, at least in this account. The words we find in the Gospel of Mark chapter 2 are these. And the Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness 40 days, tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild beasts, and the angels waited on him. Let me read that to you again. And the Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness 40 days, tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild beasts, and the angels waited on him. 3 things stand out to me about this passage. The first 2 I've already shared with you. One, that this is or can be seen as a coming-of-age story, a grappling with power, our own and that of others, and with our place in the world. The second, that the same Spirit that calls us beloved also drives us into that experience, into grappling with what to do with our power, with knowing we are beloved. But the third salient point that captures me about this passage is in one seemingly small and insignificant word, and. Listen to it again. And the Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness 40 days, tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild beasts, and the angels tended to him. It is in the power of and that we find our way to flourish in the wilderness, watching and waiting for what can also be true, noticing what we guard against, what we assume and presume, what we defend and predict and protect. Being willing and open for the and that comes to us to fill out a larger picture, to clarify next moves, in our temptations to rush or to keep things stable and moving forward, or to just revel in the bliss of being beloved or being right. Rather, waiting for the and. It is this, I believe, to which Martha Postlethwaite calls us when she invites us to create a clearing in the dense forest of our lives and wait for the song that is our life to fall into our own cupped hands that will show us how to give ourselves to the world. Or, as another religious writer puts it, listen to your life. See it for the fathomless mystery that it is, in the boredom and pain of it no less than in the excitement and gladness. Touch, taste, smell your way to the holy and hidden heart of it. Because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is grace. Those words from American Presbyterian minister and writer Frederick Buechner, words that I have been sharing with those of you who have had your spiritual wellness checks. Those words challenge us again and again to listen to our lives. And I share those as well as 3 questions. Questions that I see as universal spiritual homework that we encounter routinely and cyclically throughout our lives. 3 simple but powerful questions, just like the word and. 1, who are you? 2, what do you love? And 3, what will it mean? Who are you? What do you love? And what will it mean? These are questions we encounter in the wilderness. These are the questions posed to us by the Spirit that drives us into the wilderness. These are the questions we carry with us out of the wilderness, with continued curiosity and courage. These questions demand of us, especially in the midst of challenging and divisive times, when we are called to confront patterns and habits of domination and inequity, especially when we don't have all the details, especially when we feel an urgency to rush, to move quickly, to fix, to know, to defend, to define. When we find ourselves on the cusp and the edge of greatness and then thrust into the wilderness, questioning who we thought we were, what we thought we loved, what we thought we understood it to all mean, and perhaps find ourselves in conflict, not only with ourselves, but also with those with whom we thought we shared common ground. It is especially in times like these that we must continue listening. Listening to our own lives, yes, but listening for the and that comes across difference and disagreement. Trusting that this process, this unknowing, this willingness to be challenged and changed is exactly how we mature, how we come to flourish into persons and people who can give themselves to the world with greater clarity and courage, but also greater humility, transformed and transforming. The Detroit-born Jewish poet Marge Piercy puts it this way in her poem, Counsels. We must sit down and reason together. We must sit down. Men standing want to hold forth. They rain down upon faces lifted. We must sit down on the floor, on the earth, on stones and mats and blankets. There must be no front to the speaking, no platform, no rostrum, no stage or table. We will not crane to see who is speaking. Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark, we could utter our feelings. In the dark, we could propose and describe and suggest. In the dark, we could not see who speaks, and only the words would say what they say. Thus, saying what we feel and we want, what we fear for ourselves and each other into the dark, perhaps we could begin to listen. Perhaps we should talk in groups, small enough for everyone to speak. Perhaps we should start by speaking softly. The women must learn to dare to speak. The men must bother to listen. The women must learn to say, "I think this is so." The men must learn to stop dancing solos on the ceiling. After each speaks, she or he will repeat the ritual phrase, "It is not I who speaks, but the wind. Wind blows through me. Long after me is the wind." My friends, this is but one articulation of how we might move forward in times like these, discovering how to flourish in the wilderness, discovering something larger than our own individual selves that speaks through us, some larger truth or spirit that calls us beloved and that calls us to live differently. Waiting for the and. Perhaps this community connected to this cathedral of love is itself coming of age again, rediscovering what to do with power, how to listen, how to face difficult patterns and practices, how to give ourselves to one another and the world. This is not why I come to church, some of you might be saying. Frankly, I've said that to myself in the last days. And then I've sighed, and I've laughed to myself, and then at myself, and said, yes, actually, this is exactly why I come to church. To be challenged and changed. Not just to be a part of a community of like-minded people, but to learn to be a better part of a community learning to be beloved in and of itself and in the larger world. An ever more beloved community. I come to participate in this process of freeing the mind, growing the soul and its size, changing the world, and being changed in the process. All of which begins by waiting in the wilderness. A wilderness that shows me, that shows us how we can begin to flourish and be a part of the flourishing of all. Beloveds, in the past weeks here at Fountain Street Church, the staff here have been humbled by an outpouring of support through cards and emails and encouragement from many of you. Thank you. Thank you. And also, in the past weeks, I have been challenged to wrestle with how to move forward, what it means to face my own place in systems and patterns of patriarchy and racism. Perhaps you've found yourself faced with those same questions. Questions before us about who we are, what we truly love, and what that will mean. How we are about the business of building beloved community. How we make decisions, how we listen, how we respond. In these will be the answers to how or if we flourish in the wilderness. So whether you hear the call, the invitation, the drive into the wilderness, as if from an ancient mother in laughter and tears, as if from the lady of the turning year, or from a dove descending, whether you find yourself invited or challenged through Zoom meetings, or texts, or emails, or phone calls, whether the challenge and the invitation comes to you across your kitchen table, or in quiet moments of contemplation and prayer. However you hear it, take a moment before you answer, before you speak. Take a moment, take several, to listen, to find and create that clearing in the dense forest of your life. Make time and space to breathe and to be breathed. Remember that in excitement and gladness, as well as in boredom and pain, life itself is grace. This, my friends, this is how we will flourish in the wilderness.
This journey through the wilderness, this journey towards flourishing that we are on together is not without its challenges. But it is also not without opportunities for you to help, for you to support this work. To be frank, to put your money where your mouth and your values are. This is the offering. This is the ask for you to engage as you are able, but beyond your comfort zone, to support the work of journeying together. Our offering here at Fountain Street Church goes both to our general operating budget and also into a fund that goes back out into the community to support belovedness beyond these walls. So I invite you once again to take up that challenge, to journey with us, not just emotionally, spiritually, physically, but financially. And I thank you for that support. As our time together comes to a close, I want to share a few brief announcements. These are activities and happenings that are ways for you to deepen your journey with us, to deepen your engagement in this work that we are on together. First, directly following this service, I invite you to join us for the Deepening. The Deepening is a time of chatting and connection, and then small group discussion where we dive in more personally, more openly to that which we have engaged with this morning. You can find the link in your email, or if you message us on social media, we'll send it on to you. I hope you'll join us. We are also in the midst of our annual goods and services auction. And despite being physically distant from each other, this is a way that we can engage, that we can offer not only physical goods, but our time and our talents. Do you like walking dogs? Do you have a vacation spot you'd like to share? Are you an avid birder who has knowledge and excitement to share with members of our community? I invite you to donate those goods and services to our auction. And then I invite you to log on and see what amazing offerings are already there and place a bid and have some more joy and love and connection from this community enter your life and support us financially all at the same time. Next Saturday, I also have the honor of inviting you to my ordination. This is a ministry milestone years in the making, and while it is being hosted by the UU Fellowship of Huntington, where I did my internship and sabbatical coverage, it would mean so much to me to have you, my current congregation and beloved congregants, there to celebrate with me. A special announcement went out via email, or again, feel free to message or email us for that info. I look forward to seeing you there. In the midst of all that's happening in our world, if you just need a time to be, a time to be quiet, a time to reflect in song or poetry together, I want to invite you to join Reverend Matthew for Mondays with Matthew. It's an open Zoom room, a time to come, to just be yourself and whatever you need that day. That's tomorrow on Monday. I want to close our service today with a poem by Jan Richardson called "Beloved is Where We Begin." I invite you to hear this with an open heart and a spirit ready to journey together. If you would enter the wilderness, do not begin without a blessing. Do not leave without hearing who you are, beloved. Named by the one who has traveled this path before you. Do not go without letting it echo in your ears. If you find it hard to let it into your heart, do not despair. That is what this journey is for. I cannot promise this blessing will be free from danger, from fear, from hunger or thirst, from the scorching of the sun or the fall of the night. But I can tell you that on this path there will be help. I can tell you that on this path there will be rest. I can tell you that you will know strange graces that come to our aid only on a road such as this, that fly to meet us, bearing comfort and strength to come alongside us for no other cause than to lean themselves towards our ear and with their curious insistence whisper our name, beloved, beloved, beloved.